Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Slingshot from Levees.org. Today, it'll be myself, Sandy Rosenthal, you know me, and Rudy Vorkapic. And hello, Rudy.
Hi there.
Rudy, originally from Chicago, came to New Orleans the year prior to Katrina. He founded and produced a satirical newspaper called The Levee with the mantra, "We hold nothing back." This was the first newspaper of record to call out the Army Corps of Engineers for the failure of its levees and the flooding of New Orleans. And today, I'm going to turn the mic directly over to Rudy, and because we have a little surprise for you today.
Hey, Sandy, good to see you again. It's been a while. We were on summer break. We wanted to take this opportunity. When this airs, it should be August 1st. And given that date, this holy little month that's coming up in our history, August 29th is going to be the 20th year since Katrina. I always loathe to say anniversary, Sandy. I hate to say anniversary. It always denotes something, anniversary denotes something positive, and it's such a rough time even now. I've noticed, and one of the reasons I suggested this topic that we start talking right now today, in time for August, so we can share with folks what life was right before life changed forever. And that's the plan. So we're going to talk about a few things today. We're going to talk about where we were at that time to give you a little perspective about how quickly things can change, how fast. I think we all know that in ways. But when it happens to a community, when it happens to a region, when it happens to multiple states at one time, and there's no one there to help, and you're on your own, and there's nothing but the night, and there's nothing but the rain, and there's nothing but the lightning, and there's nothing but the dark, um, and there's nothing but the heat. You are left alone, and that's where this community was 20 years ago. And we're not going to talk right now about after Katrina. We're going to talk about before, life right before, and how the perspective of it mirrors today, kind of, and kind of has, in our lives, it has brought us to a place we never knew we would be. I never knew I would do the levy. I don't think you ever knew that you would be a citizen journalist who went on to tackle insurance companies and help the entire state and help everyone. I don't think you ever expected that. Let's see. And so, I'd like to start, basically by talking about, the climate. The political climate back then is not unlike it was now. Right about now, back then, we were talking about there were issues here about preparedness. People were worried about the levees being ready. That was a conversation. It wasn't a big conversation. It wasn't the highlight. It wasn't what was on everyone's minds like it would be a month later. But what it was happening was the federal government, George Bush, Republicans at that time, had been constantly taking money away from the Army Corps of Engineers. They'd been taking money away from all these projects to build levees and whatnot, and our levees too. So a lot of that was kind of just on its way to where it was going. Um, Back then, they were talking about uh, weakening FEMA. They were talking about, well, FEMA didn't get to be FEMA until after Katrina. You agree with that, Sandy?
It didn't get to what until after Katrina?
FEMA didn't get to be FEMA until after Katrina. It was an agency and it was there, but it did not have any kind of focus until after Katrina.
It
That's
certainly did
how I
not when the
always believe.
levees broke 20 years ago.
Absolutely. So there was already a weak federal response in the offing. So that was going to come. So, but there were problems with the Iraq War. There was so much going on at that particular point. Now, I just want to mention that, but myself, I had come from Chicago, like Sandy said, and I'd gotten here literally moved down here full time about oh, I moved down here full time maybe 6 months earlier. And I had driven down here. I was basically, it was like the song. I was rolling down the river. I left a good job in the city. I was in Chicago. I left a good career in the city. I had met a girl at a crawfish boil 2.5 years earlier here. So that's how you meet down in New Orleans. You meet at a crawfish boil. And yeah, met that night and we're together ever since. And the day I moved down here, I was with my stuff and I brought a wedding ring and got engaged on the front porch of a house we had that we had bought. And life was beginning. I had given up a career as a journalist in Chicago and an editor in Chicago, and I came down here. My the girl I had met, she was just started a job here. She had been living in Toronto and moved all around. She's from here, but went to Mississippi State and moved away for a while. Came back. She'd been back a month when I met her, and and so yeah, so that was life. So I'd come back and I was going to freelance. I was freelancing. I was doing a great job. I was having a lot of fun covering sports mostly, and it was delving in the news again. So I was just starting to get my toe into the news realm because I had a sports background too, and it was easier to get sports jobs, and I did that. And life was lovely, and it was beautiful here. And I lived in New Orleans. I was living in New Orleans. It was a dream, an absolute dream. And even to this day, I say it all the time. Every time I walk out the door in New Orleans, I see something new. I have never seen the same day twice. I've never seen the same tree twice. I've never seen the same magnolia twice. I've never seen any of the flowers the same way twice, ever. It's an amazing place in that regard. And you have to respect it. And so life was beautiful while we were going along, freelancing. Uh, had no idea where life was going to take me, and yeah, had no idea where life was going to take me. A short time later, how about you, Sandy? I know a bit about your story, but you crack me up. I mean, I stayed in my realm, but your realm, you went wild.
I well, one thing for sure, anybody who claims they knew that this was going to happen is lying. And anyone that says, "Oh, I knew the levees were going to break," is they have no idea what they're saying that after the fact. It's called Monday morning quarterbacking, is what that's called.
Absolutely.
So I, like you, uh, the day before the levees broke, on my way driving out of the city, I remember saying to myself, "Goodbye, New Orleans." But I didn't mean it, goodbye forever. I knew that we were going to come back to a very wet city. I didn't know it was going to be that wet. But I knew enough to know that the levees were likely going to overtop. There was going to be some soggy carpets and wet ankles for those who stayed. But no one in their wildest dreams had any idea that what happened would happen.
Right.
So in my case, I was living the dream as well. I had previously to 2005, I'd done my 15 or 20 years or so, more like 25 years or so of the 9 to 5, corporate 9 to 5 job. And I'd reached a point in my life where I could get a great job part time, which is really the best of both worlds. A great job with responsibility and challenge for just 20 hours a week. So I'd achieved that, and I was able to play tennis in the middle of the week, which is something that I love to do. And I was having a great time, and I was organizing teams of my own and
Yes.
living this life. I had one child at home, someone that you're all familiar with, Stanford. He was a 15-year-old, just started freshman year. And I had what I thought was my perfect uptown life.
Now let's not even forget that Stanford, after Katrina, 6 months later, he would build my website for my newspaper. And he was 15 then. I met him when he was 15 too. Blew my mind, still blows my mind, and we're still friends to this day.
And I
Absolutely.
should tell everyone, barely 15,
Barely
not almost
15.
16.
And not only did he build my website, ladies and gentlemen, but he built this website. And I just want to just to show you like the talent that we have in this city. He built my website from scratch. He basically invented WordPress before WordPress was WordPress. He developed his entire backend, the entire system, and it was easy to operate and it was easy to understand. It was easy to make work. It was amazing. He blew my mind. He blew my mind, but that was another story.
And
I wouldn't
and
meet
and
him till after.
since we're on Stanford for just a second, the he still to this day does the Levees.org website, and I asked him to make a change to the homepage, and I said, but if you can't do it, I can try to figure it out. And he said, no, Mom, this is a site that I designed. Nobody
Yep.
but me can
Yep.
change it. He
I absolutely.
designed the page, which means he did it from code. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. He's my
he's still
hero.
doing
No,
that
yeah,
20
he's
years
my
later.
hero. No, we almost got into business recently. Troy almost put together a news website. We were working on that, but it didn't quite go to where we wanted, but that's okay. And but that was again, that's a relationship that was born from all of this, you know. And I had made so many friends, and one of the friends that I had made back then was, oh, I interrupted you, didn't I, Cindy?
No,
You
no,
were
that's
still
quite all
going.
right. I think I've really said it all. I
Yeah,
had my perfect uptown life. I was an uptown girl,
I hear
uh,
you.
and
That's
living
great.
what I thought was the high life.
The uptown
And
world.
so I'm going to not only say it's quite all right to interrupt me, which it really is, but there are silver linings, and I agree. The
Amazing.
people I've met who I would never have met,
No.
which is certainly one positive thing.
Right.
Not meaning in any way
Right.
to be disrespectful to those who
Right.
have lost so much.
Right. One of the people I met before was Latoya Cantrell, our mayor,
Mhm, mhm.
our horrible mayor. And she became a friend. She was a friend. I was one of the very first people to whisper in her ear, Latoya for mayor, and it still causes a tear in my stomach.
Yeah,
I thought she was going to do a great job, and she just quit. And
Latoya and I were partner activists.
yes,
She over in Broadmoor, just a stone's throw
of
from where
course.
I live, and
Hmm.
me uptown. So we were sister activists, trying to do what we thought was best for our neighborhoods.
Yes.
Yep,
Yes.
that was
That was a rough one.
20 years ago.
Yeah, and another one that I would end up meeting and being friends with before even Katrina was Chris Rose. Chris Rose, for those who don't know, was one of the best writers of that time. He did a daily column at the Times-Picayune, and he reflected a community's fright and nervousness and apprehension of everything that was happening. And what he did, he ended up finishing second in the Pulitzer Prize competition that year, which was a travesty. But he was a friend at the time. And there's recently been a lot of talk about Chris because there's been a story written about him, a remembrance from Keith Spira, who's a great music writer in town. He's the best music writer in town. And he caught up with Chris, and he's living a rough life, just in the woods, a hermit
Alone.
almost, alone, in a campsite, wasting away. His liver's going, his drinking, and I got to know him before Katrina. I When I had moved down here, I was a journalist, and so I had a lot of journalism friends, and so uh, networking, I got to meet Chris, and we hit it off, and there were a few drinks involved, yeah, yeah, but we hit it off well. And after a while, he said, he offered to me, would you like me to introduce you to people at the Times-Picayune? And would you like to see if I can get you an interview? I said, yeah, I'd love that. That'd be great. Thank you. So they did that. So what ended up happening, and we can talk about this later, but what would end up happening is that I would be organizing and coming out with the very first edition of the New Orleans Levy, a satirical newspaper that was ripping the Times-Picayune and everything in this city. And at the time I was interviewing for him, it was the only edition that I ever used the pseudonym. I ever used the fake name because I was literally interviewing for them at the time, and they didn't know it, and it was awesome, and it was a great secret, and I loved it. And there's a big story, and I'll love to tell the story of my interview at the Times-Picayune someday. It's for me a horror story in terms of journalism, but we can get into that one time sometime soon.
I look forward to that because
But
as
Chris,
I'm sure you know,
cheers.
Jim Amos is not a friend of mine.
Well, he's not a friend of mine.
We've tangled in the past in 2009, 2010. We've tangled, but one of the first things that I remember you doing, Rudy, to really help out levees.org in a huge way was when the American Society of Civil Engineers threatened us with lawsuit
Oh,
if we didn't take down the video that we made at Newman with those high school kids, and you immediately
it wasn't. No, no,
here. Why don't you go ahead and tell
no.
our
Go
listeners what
ahead,
you
please.
did?
Go ahead, and I'll add to it because I have a story after. Please go right ahead. I'd love to hear yours.
Oh,
Please go ahead.
Rudy, as the editor of a publication, and what he did is he went ahead and even though I was being ordered by the American Society of Civil Engineers to take it down or risk lawsuit. Rudy says, "Well, I'm a news source. I can put it up if I want. Go ahead and sue me.
Yep.
Just try to
Just
sue
try.
me." And
Bring
and
it
and you
on.
were the first to put the video up on your
Oh,
website. You had an online website at that point,
yes.
probably
That
designed by Stanford,
your son was managing. Yes,
and who was
absolutely.
managing. And then after you did it, then the Time-Picayune followed
Yep.
suit. And then
Yep.
all the other newspapers followed
Oh,
suit. But
absolutely.
Rudy, you were the first,
Oh,
and I remember you were on record. I think you called into a
yes.
radio show about
Oh,
this. You did.
absolutely.
You called in to, I was
Garland
on
Robinette,
some
the
radio
biggest
show.
radio show in the South.
And I think you said I'm
Yes.
a news organization. I'm putting
Yes.
it up there because it's news. Sue
Right.
me.
Right. I went on with Garland. Garland Robinette was having me on. I was on WWL for 18 months every month with Garland for an hour, and we had a blast. And yeah, and so that's what I thought. I spelled it all out right there. I put it on the big WWL 50,000 watt blower and told everybody, sue me, sue
Sue
me.
me. It was a time when it was jump now and think about it later. Shout now and think about it later. And you know what? We came out just fine.
We came out fine. And that's what we do, Sandy, and that's what we do, and that's what needs to be done now. This is why I wanted to kind of talk about this. We need to talk truth to power more than any time in my life now. If there's a time to talk truth to power, it's now. The last time that I felt this strong about it was when the federal government, the state government, and the local government failed on every level during Katrina. That's the last time I felt like I feel these days. And I'm not a I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I'm a summer chicken or maybe a fall chicken, one of those two. But the point being is that I'm not going to be the one leading the charge. It's going to be someone younger than me. I'm gonna sit out here and I'm gonna be the one yelling to the rafters like, "Hey, who's that old goof still yelling about all this stuff?" That's gonna be me. I'm gonna be the old goof. But the point is, it's gonna be someone younger with a lot more energy and a lot more determination that I can muster at these days. In all honesty, and I still muster quite a bit. But
You're
the point
talking about
being,
leadership.
I'm talking about leadership, and I'm talking about leadership and really standing up to government and stepping up and standing up and talking against government. Look what's happening right now. It's the most important thing we can do because, as we sit here, there is a president in charge who is basically very much into censorship. He loves talking about freedom of speech and whatnot, but only for the things he says.
Hmm.
So and it was just like that when Katrina was coming. It's the same kind of government setup. It was, we're the ones, we love freedom of speech, but just don't say anything we don't like.
It
So
it is interesting that had Hurricane Ivan not happened in 2004, there
mm,
would have been a lot more morbidity after the levees broke because Hurricane Ivan showed us that we don't have a way out if a hurricane's coming. That our evacuation system, it was not a system. It didn't
yeah,
work, and a lot of people turned around and went home for Hurricane Ivan. Well, fortunately, Hurricane Ivan sputtered and blew itself out. But had it not been for that, many more people would not have survived a year later. So
yeah,
we were, you absolutely. I'm agreeing with you. That was a long way of saying I agree. We were concerned about flooding and hurricanes and
right.
storms when Katrina arrived. We weren't sitting around just
No,
running around with a foam finger
no.
and partying. Did you know, Rudy, that more people in the greater New Orleans have flood insurance and don't need it than anywhere else in the country?
Wow, I have
I mean,
no doubt about that because it's
and
required.
it's
It's required.
more people have it that aren't required to have it than anywhere
Right.
else in the country, which is
Oh,
how the flood insurance program is supposed to work. You're
right.
supposed to have people that are required to have it, you're supposed to have people that aren't required to have it too.
Right.
And it was a perfect example of how it's supposed to function. But do you
Wow.
know, for months, even years after the levees broke, there was this information going around how, oh, no, nobody in New Orleans had insurance.
Ah,
They were all lazy and they didn't bother to get flood insurance.
there was
When the
another. There's
opposite is
another
true.
myth. There was
That's
nothing
another
but
one.
myths being floated around. All it was disinformation back then,
Right.
just like it is today. Just like it is today. We
The
got
same.
nothing but disinformation flying around. And I'll tell you what, if you've never been in a situation where you have been like a national focal point, where something has happened to you, and you have the national media come in and you have the national government come in, and there's a clash or something's happening, boy, oh boy, you are going to get swept away in another flood of bullshit.
Yeah, may your house never be on CNN.
May your house never be on CNN ought to probably be the Katrina t-shirt of the year.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah.
May
You
your
don't want
house
to be in
never
the
be on
news.
CNN. That should be the Katrina t-shirt for
You
this
don't
year.
want to be in the news.
You do not
Rudy,
want to be in the news.
remember about, oh, I don't know, not immediately after the levees broke, but I want to say maybe 4 years, we used to sit around going, ah, blessed humdrum.
Yes, yes,
There's really
yes.
nothing exciting in the news today.
Right,
Good. We
right.
we used to love
It's a
the
beautiful
thought
thing.
of blessed
Yeah,
humdrum.
you could live, you go for a walk, you could enjoy life a little
Yeah.
bit, breathe, do this funny thing called breathing in and out, not just in. Yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah,
it was great. It was a
there was a
lovely,
time, and
beautiful time.
oh,
And now,
and
yeah,
what else? And we probably don't want to get too much into after Hurricane Katrina, but
right, right.
remember that the after so many people had lost everything, people realized I didn't need all that stuff anyway.
That's always going to be a truth, right? Isn't that always a truth? It is always a truth. I mean, down here, I didn't know what spring cleaning was until I met my wife. So every spring there's a purge. So that purge it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Causes arguments too, but it's still a beautiful thing to look at.
Uh,
I
but
want that
I
t-shirt.
love this. I love the like what was life like before
Hmm.
it happened, and it's we need to remember that and think about that. And
We do.
there were some good things about it, and but then in
Yes.
some cases, not so
Right.
good things about it. You
Right.
remember the school system
That was
was
horrible.
so bad
That's probably
that
the right. I
I'm
apologize.
it's so bad. I mean, you take a measure, any measure, anyone, it doesn't matter what it is. It was horrific. And I'm not dissing the teachers. No, it was not the
No.
teachers.
No.
It was something much, much, much bigger
Right.
that
Right.
that it took really blowing the whole system up to
Right.
fix, which is a whole
It
the
was a
subject.
system that landed on the teachers almost, and
Right,
then it became just completely
right.
dysfunctional when
Well
everyone
put.
was involved. So it was the union, it was the school board being absolute morons, which they still are today,
It was huge.
and yes, it was huge. And so we
And
still have the school board, but they only are in control, thank goodness, of a couple of schools because
by the way,
they
a
can't even run those.
documentary is going to be released very shortly
Hmm.
about the whole school. Um,
I
Reform is
understand.
not a big enough word for it. I
No,
mean, how it
no,
got
no.
blown up and the whole new charter system came in. It's my
Destruction and
understanding that
rebuilding.
the charter school system that we have now is a model for the country. Is it perfect?
Right.
No.
No.
No, there's no such thing, but it is a model for the country.
Right.
But the
And it was
schools
a
were
good
beyond
yes.
horrific.
And I believe it was a good model for what we needed at that time.
Yes.
And
The no,
if the other thing would have been better, it would have taken over the charter schools by now.
the my understanding, and I know because I was involved in the very, very early years right after Hurricane Katrina and about 10 years before Katrina, I was actually involved with the public school system. The teachers prior to the breaks and prior to the new system we have now considered their job, and I'm not making this up, making sure that their kids didn't get shot at school.
There you go.
I didn't hear anything about education there.
Right.
It was they felt that they were had custodians of the children
Right.
from 8 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon until they were released, and they were to make sure that they were safe. Notice I
Right.
didn't say anything about making sure that they were
Educated.
educated. That that's just how bad. For the listeners out there, I'm sure many of whom either don't know or might have forgotten just how bad the school system
Right.
was. So that's what things were like.
That's true.
What else was
Now we also can't say that, thank goodness it happened so our schools got better.
Yeah, no, no, of course not. Of course
But,
not. And
just like anything, any action has a reaction. So anything that does happen, there's going to be something good and something bad that comes out of it. It's just the way that it's going to be.
mhm.
And so, yes, and and now, but look, you had mentioned earlier, and I wanted to talk about it too. We're talking about what's happened in Texas. You know,
Mhm.
uh, Here we are. I think I'm so afraid that what's happening is so indicative of what has already happened, which is, and you keep doing it again, you keep doing the same thing over and over again is the definition of insanity, they say. So, but in Texas, here we are, flash flood. We know the weather has changed. We know the weather has changed, and storms come quicker. They are more powerful. They're more destructive, and they just are more unpredictable than ever before. And we only started recently figuring out how to predict them. So, and that's the sad part. Um, so here we are, and so Texas comes, and Texas is a big deal, and but in the scheme of it, it's a smaller disaster. And so here we are. How is the response there? I've heard criticism, I've heard good, but it is a small microcosm of what may come or what is going to come someplace sometime soon.
And it's my
And
understanding they haven't yet found all of the missing.
this is very true. This is so very
So it's
true.
an ongoing, continuing to unfold tragedy going on right now. I have not. Well, it's really too soon to understand what went wrong,
That's what
why
I
the
think too.
warnings came. It's too soon. I mean, I apologize, Rudy. Do you know the date of the Dallas flooding?
Oh, I specific data. I don't have with me.
I don't either, but I do know it is too far too soon
Yes.
to there needs to be an inquiry. There need to be congressional inquiries. I haven't heard that they've been assigned yet. Senate investigation, House
I
investigation.
I highly doubt any of that is going to happen.
It's
I
wild.
highly doubt any of that is going
Do
to
you know
happen.
there were at least 2 dozen quote unquote Katrina hearings, at
Yes.
least 2 dozen
Oh,
between the
absolutely.
House and the Senate.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and it's interesting hearing you say there may be no congressional hearings
No.
into this flooding. That is mind-boggling.
No, there will. I cannot imagine there would be any way that they will take any kind of self-criticism. No way.
Not that they're the panacea, because
No,
I've
right.
listened to many a congressional hearing where the information was wrong, or the members of Congress weren't even listening to the data being
Oh,
presented because they'd
without
already made
question.
up their minds.
Oh, absolutely. They were probably listening. Yeah, right. They're listening to a podcast. There's not a
So
podcast then.
so I'm not suggesting that congressional hearings are like the cosmos,
No,
God
no,
deciding what happened. I mean,
no.
but at least it's a hearing,
But
and
you
at
always
least
need to look back and have a good outsider look at what's happened,
and at least
and
the
then
data
learn
is being
from it.
put
But
out
if
there.
yeah, but
Yeah.
there'll be no learning from anything. They'll just be trotting ahead. This kind of to me is this new federalism is almost what it is, where in certain areas you'll pretend to give the states back some power. But it really is just blame shifting what's happening here. This isn't even federalism or a new federalism. This is a pre-blame shift. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to change everything around. We're not going to tell you how to do it. We're not going to help you prepare. We're not going to do anything but wait until it happens. And I'll tell you what is the best way to get thrown out of a public office? not be prepared for disaster. Now, I'm from Chicago, and in 1977, there was a giant snowstorm. And the
Oh
mayor
yeah.
back then was a man named Michael Blandick, who had taken over for Mayor Daley, the old Mayor Daley, who had died. And so he was the hand chosen successor to Mayor Daley. And in 1977, the snow fell and there were no plows. And the city was closed down for a long time. And Michael Blandick he was the proverbial snowball in hell because he was never heard from again.
Okay.
George Bush, when Katrina happened, been lying his way through his term. Katrina happened. He handled it so badly that both sides saw what an idiot he was. And there are no way I can use words that are not those words because they're base. And the reaction that they served us was base. And I believe that sometimes you have to go to the mattresses with these people. So, yeah, no, this was the same thing happened to George Bush. He got knocked around because he was not prepared. And it's coming. It's coming in many ways. And the bad thing is that it's not a good thing because
Right.
people are going to suffer for no reason, and people are going to be in the rain, and people are going to be in the dark, and it's for no reason, and it's going to happen because we're not ready yet, and we know what it's like to be ready. We know what it's like to be not ready, and I think it's clear to us that we are not ready.
No, and we're not. And we, as far as with the Dallas flooding, it will be could be years, believe it or not, till we find out really what went wrong and how it could have prevented, which is crazy. It
It'll
shouldn't take
probably
so
be
long.
it'll probably be after this term or the next term.
When all the information comes out,
Yes,
because it
when
takes
it
a
comes
while
out.
for all the information to come out. People have
It does.
asked me, Sandy, why did you wait till 10 years after the Levees spoke to write a book? I says, it took me, this isn't a glamorous answer, but it took me years to get all the information
Sure.
to write the book with. I mean, it all
Right.
wasn't handed to me on a silver platter. So,
No.
I have a feeling the same thing will go on with this Dallas flooding. Uh,
And
and
and and to be honest, that is exactly, Sandy, the idea of what I had for this podcast today. That specific thought that here we are talking about things that we would have been talking about before Katrina if we didn't known. And now
mhm,
we know. So what are we gonna do?
right. Right. I do think, as for, shifting back to where were we, before the levees broke, New Orleans was a diverse city,
Barry?
and we had way less incidences of black white any sort of black white
We
friction
did.
here than the rest of the country.
We sort of did.
Less.
We
But
did.
But after the levees broke, our neighborhoods all got tighter. They actually started intermingling and they got
Yes.
tighter. We've joined hands and we've
Yes.
stayed joined hands for, to this day. We made it through
Absolutely.
COVID together. We made it through the snowstorm together, which few
The
people
oil
in the country
spill,
seem to even
the
know about.
oil spill
The oil spill, we made it through together. We joined hands and we got through together. And I mean together. I don't
together.
mean the white neighborhoods with the whites and the black neighborhoods
Nope.
with the black. All of us
All joining
together.
hands. It's
Uh,
Mardi Gras. That spirit is the Mardi Gras all year. That's the part
oh
that I
yeah,
love. I
yeah,
love saying hello to my neighbors. I love saying hello to everybody because this is not a big city. Again, when I
no,
moved here,
no.
a friend put his arm around me, and this is before when I moved here, the 6 months before Katrina, I moved here permanently. When I moved here with my stuff,
Hmm.
friend, big old bear of a man, came up to me, put his arm around me, said, "Welcome to New Orleans, Rudy, where it's neither big nor easy." And I have gone with those words ever since. That has summed it up for me because you have to remember I'm from Chicago. So remember, New Orleans for me is about the size of a neighborhood.
Hmm. Yeah.
So it amazes me the decisions that are made, the things that don't get done for such a small area. I have never been able to wrap my head around it other than corruption, greed, and money.
So where I'm going with this is, New Orleans was its diversity and its camaraderie was good before the levees broke. Now it's great.
Yeah, I believe.
And I
I
see it
mean,
every day. I see it every
every
day.
day.
I can go anywhere in this city, anywhere, anywhere. I'll walk into any shop, any store, any neighborhood, and don't feel unwelcome. I mean, I
Hmm.
feel welcome.
Hmm.
Uh, I think people will trip over themselves to say, "How can I help? What can I do?" Um, and you cannot say that in other big cities, no
This
matter
is
where you
very
go.
true. This is
I,
very
I don't
true.
think there's a single one, to my knowledge.
I will go with Chicago in the sense that
Okay, good.
it's a friendly town, and that's one of the things that I loved about New Orleans as much as where I'm from as where I am now. The people are friendlier, they're just it's a middle of the country kind of thing. I mean, we're in the South and everything, but this is a blue dot in a red state. This is a
Hmm.
blue dot in an entire area. This is a dot in the
Yeah,
South.
it's a
This is
dot.
a dot in the South. And so, I mean, I'll be honest with you, and I've never been hesitant to say this. If I didn't live in New Orleans, I would not live in Louisiana. Why would I live in Louisiana if I'm not going to live in New Orleans? Pardon me. I'm not. If I'm offending, I'm offending. But it's the truth. But it's the absolute truth, and that's my feeling.
There's only one New
So
Orleans. There's only one New Orleans.
there's
My
only one New Orleans.
my next door neighbor, her husband passed away, and so she was alone, and she moved back to Baton Rouge because that's where her sister was, and I wished her well. I said
Yes.
I didn't blame her at all. Well, a year later, I ran into her in Zara, a little grocery store about a block from my house. And I said, Mary, I said, you visiting? She said, no, I moved back. I miss New Orleans.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Even and how could you not feel sorry for the folks who could never come back, who wanted to come back? That's that damn storm. It washed away a lot of things. It
And,
really did. It washed away some of our best people. It washed away some of our joy. It did. But it did also make us jump in together. And boy, I know for 10 years there was everyone was a brother and sister. That was
yeah,
easy. That was easy. And maybe it's not as evident or blatant. Maybe we're not like that, but it's there. It's there. If you went through this, especially this time of the year, it's kind of like that every year. But the big anniversaries hurt a little bit more, and this one's kind of started for me now. This is why I kind of had a thought about let's talk about what life was like before life changed forever. And I if you go through it, I wish you well. That's really well. There's not much more you can say. Be ready, be prepared. No matter where you are, if you live near water, be prepared. Um, but it's amazing where life will take you. I think you know that it can be health, it could be accident, it could be anything. And when it's a natural disaster, I don't know. It's maybe sometimes a little harder to even wrap your head around because you have nothing to do with it.
a natural disaster that triggered and um,
Apologize. Yes.
exposed engineering
The
mistakes.
worst man-made disaster in the history of this country.
Sorry, I got to do that. Got to slip
You
that
were
in.
correct. Thank you. That was the best correction of the day.
It triggered a natural disaster, yes, that
It should.
exposed
It
a little
should.
problem.
And that's how you and I got on the same page so
Yeah.
well, because we were in complete agreement with that particular sentence,
Hmm.
that this was a man-made disaster. And it was the fault specifically of the federal agent in charge of designing the system, the Army Corps
Yes.
of Engineers.
And then their
That is
biggest crime
brilliant.
was covering up those
Covering
mistakes
up.
that they made.
And that's what they did. They covered it up, and Sandy's book delves deep into it, and it's a phenomenal book. And it's a great achievement. So
Thank you. Thank you.
cheers.
Rudy, is there anything else you'd like to add about
I'm great. Yeah,
what it was like?
I feel like I should pay everyone who's going to be listening, for the rate for counseling. I appreciate you.
The only thing I can add is Hurricane Cindy who,
Yep.
came through New Orleans 4 weeks before Hurricane Katrina did. And I remember lying in bed going, wow, it's really windy out there. Well, it turned out it was a hurricane. We weren't told it was a hurricane. And we
Wow.
didn't know it was a hurricane until after it had gone through. And then they checked all the weather instruments and oops, we had a hurricane last night. And
Right.
I will say this, Hurricane Cindy knocked more papaya out of our trees than Hurricane Katrina did. So Katrina in New Orleans was a moderately
It
wet,
was moderate.
moderately windy storm.
Right.
Moderately.
It
Yeah.
was not so bad. I mean, we lost a lot of roofs because we had a lot of old roofs,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but that was more the condition of the roofs than it was the storm that came through.
Exactly. Exactly. We
And
hadn't had a big storm in 40 years.
oh my gosh, do you remember? I still remember that. We this is tipping over into our what we said window, but that waking up that next that Monday morning and thinking we had dodged it,
Yep.
and then the water wouldn't go down,
Hmm. In fact, did the opposite. It went kept going up.
just kept going
So,
up,
but
and right,
so our
that
listeners,
was
we this is
amazing.
going to be continued. This is part one.
Yes,
Before the levees broke, and then we are going to come back with a part two after the levees broke, and we're going to do a before and after. Maybe we should change our look too for those that are
cheers.
watching us on video. So anyway, thank you for joining us, Rudy. It was great to see you today and to have this conversation, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Always, Sandy, anytime.
Thank you. And thank you, the listeners, for joining us. Be sure to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast on all of your favorite platforms. And see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
I'm going to stop recording now.